Right. All right. Well, that's our football talk for now. Seth reached out to me, wanted to talk a little bit about horses. That is something we haven't covered yet here on TalkCulotta. We've covered everything from golf to beach volleyball to soccer to baseball, Will Clark, Miles Brennan, college football, NFL football, basketball. We're going to get John Brady here on the show next week. We're going to get JR from the JR Sports Brief on the show next week. We're going to cover as many sports as possible. You got a tennis expert, you got a pro tennis player you want on the show, tell them to reach out to me. We'll get them on. But for now, let's talk about a little horse racing. All right. So we have coming up here in Louisiana, the Louisiana Stakes. It's for 4-year-olds and appears to be a 2-horse race. So first and foremost, Seth, talk to me about this race.
Yeah. So it's a passion of mine getting ready for the Derby. Just love to watch it, see all the horses. So the Louisiana Stakes is for 4-year-olds though. And so this is the Kentucky Derby itself is for 3-year-olds. So these are horses that either ran in the Kentucky Derby last year, or even if they did not, are now 4 years old and are playing against, quote, the big boys, 4 years old and up. So the Louisiana Stakes is got 2 Kentucky Derby runners in it, Mandaloon and Midnight Bourbon.
Okay.
The interesting thing about Mandaloon, he may be last year's Kentucky Derby winner. We still don't know, as it is tied to the storyline of Medina Spirit, who recently passed away.
Okay.
But for those who recall, Medina Spirit, who won the Kentucky Derby last year, was subsequently disqualified upon being tested after the race for an illegal drug. So there's a long storyline there, and it's been tied up. Yes, very, very dicey, which we can talk about our dear friend Bob Baffert, who is the trainer of Medina Spirit, who has been suspended from the Kentucky Derby for 2 years. But there's a lot going on there, and Mandaloon finished second, and if Medina Spirit's disqualification is upheld by the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission, Mandaloon will be designated the winner, and their owner will become $1.8 million richer. So, but
first of all, what's your perspective of Bob Baffert? Are you like, this is like, Deflategate with the Patriots just going after the best team, or do you think he's deserving of his suspension?
At this point, I think he's deserving. As a lawyer, it's innocent until proven guilty. Yes, this is a claimed, it was an accident. It was allegedly ointment. I've seen some studies that say if it was ointment, it wouldn't be showing up to the degree it showed up. It's a situation of where there's smoke, there's fire. This isn't Bob's first one. This is his 7th oops in the last 2 years. There's more going back in history. He's so sophisticated. He's one of the best in the business, but this is a real knock on him. And I think it's time that something was done. I really do.
I'm reading that at this time last year, Midnight Bourbon emerged as the 3-year-old to follow on the Kentucky Derby Trail with a win in the Grade 3 Lecomte Stakes at the fairgrounds. A year later, he returns for the Louisiana Stakes, looking to springboard himself to a strong 4-year-old campaign, and that the Louisiana Stakes will be an easier return spot for Midnight Bourbon than the Pegasus World Cup, which was also under consideration as his return race. But it will not be a walk in the park because of the presence of his rival, Mandaloon. So if Mandaloon and Midnight Bourbon are no doubt the front runners and who you should be considering to bet on, I will mention, Seth, that they've squared off 5 times in their short careers. Midnight Bourbon has gotten the better of Mandaloon twice, while Mandaloon has finished ahead of Midnight Bourbon 3 times. Thoughts?
So here's the issue with horse race betting. You got to try and find a way to make money.
Yeah.
And
that is the goal, right?
Yeah. And so, but horse racing involves pari-mutuel wagering, unlike Vegas. What you're doing when you're horse racing is odds are calculated based on how the general public ultimately bets.
Right.
So that's what makes horse racing fun. It's you against the world. It's not you against a Vegas line. And if you know something the world doesn't know, take advantage of it.
Right.
In a situation like this, you can't really make money betting on Mandaloun. You can't make money to win. You can't really make money if Midnight Bourbon wins. The odds are too low.
Right.
So you say, well, let's try and maybe play an exacta or even a trifecta. You probably want to maybe play an exotic here. And
explain to amateur horse bettors what an exotic is, because I know what an exacta is, but you just threw out the word exotic, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
no, that's fair. So the exacta is one of the many exotic wagers. So you have the exacta, which is where you pick the first place horse and the second place horse correctly. The trifecta is another exotic. That's where you pick the first place horse correctly, second place correctly, and third place correctly. The superfecta is another exotic. That would be 1, 2, 3, and 4 correctly.
Okay.
And those start to pay out more and more because the difficulty there is challenging.
Right.
And so the way to play them, though, is to kind of buy multiple permutations, but not so many that you spend more than you can ultimately win. And in my experience, this looks like the 2-horse race, Mandaloun and Midnight Bourbon. On paper, that is all that's there. For some reason, it feels to me when I'm watching these races, it never ends up with the 2 best paper horses coming in 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. Also, even if they did, you're not going to make very much money because everybody's thinking that's the 1 and the 2. So what you're really looking for is pick one of them,
right?
Put him in the 1 spot. Don't put the other one in the 2. Maybe you pick 2 horses, one of these longer odds to be in the 2 spot. And then maybe you put the other one in the 3rd place spot.
Okay.
Or maybe you can put a couple in the 3rd place spot. Because look, it would be great if only one of them is in the trifecta. That's when things start to pay, is when one of the expected to do wells don't. That's when you start getting bigger paydays.
Right. And just to give those experts or those considering placing a bet on this race, you got Chess Chief 10-1.
Actually, you don't. Chess scratched and is headed to the Pegasus.
Oh, okay. So Mandaloun 6-5, Midnight Bourbon 8-5, Sprawl 12-1, Pirates Punch 10-1. Sorry, those are I'm reading them as records. They're odds. Mandaloun 6-5.
Thank you. Boy, that was making me painful.
Midnight Bourbon 8-5, Sprawl 12-1, Pirates Punch 10-1, Warrant 6-1, Spa City 20-1. And what I'm reading here on HorseRacingNation.com as an amateur horse better, I usually just go with what Seth tells me or what my buddy Jim Love tells me. Is an exacta of Mandaloun and Midnight Bourbon is entirely possible, but it will pay next to nothing, as you mentioned. To try to make some money, it is best to split the 2 with a long shot in second. Experienced older runners, Chess Chief, well, now he's out, but Sprawl, who loves the distance, fit the bill. So of the 2, this person, this writer, this horse racing journalist favors Sprawl slightly and prefers Mandaloun over Midnight Bourbon. So I guess he's channeling a trifecta with Mandaloun, Sprawl, Midnight Bourbon.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's the same analysis that I was thinking of. You got to split them to make money. You can't put them 1, 2.
Right.
I also, so the step 1 is, who do you want, Mandaloun or Midnight Bourbon? Midnight Bourbon was a great horse to watch last year. It just felt in his races he couldn't ever quite get it. I mean, he was always right there. He'll hit the board for you over and over. It's just like he didn't want to win. Right. So that for me is why I would put Mandaloun in 1.
Okay.
Now you're hoping that Midnight Bourbon, that either doesn't have his best race. This is their first race of the year. They're coming off a long layoff. They're starting their 4-year-old and up campaign. There's no guarantee that Mandaloun or Midnight Bourbon is fully cranked. So I'm hoping Mandaloun's fully cranked and Midnight Bourbon's just kind of using this as a warm-up, which is why he might maybe fade to 3rd. So then, Sprawl is a pick. I kind of liked Warrant. Got some decent odds there. But that's what you're trying to do here, is Go with one of them up top and put the other one in third for a fun trifecta kind of play.
Explain the difference between boxing or not boxing.
That's a great question. A lot of new bettors overbet that. So in this situation, what we're talking about is like we talked about earlier, you got to pick your spots. We're saying Mandaloun's going to win. So you would only bet with Mandaloun in first place. Now, if you box 3 horses, let's say you Mandaloun, Midnight Bourbon, and Warrant, you're effectively playing a permutation that has all of them in all possible spots.
Right. So
and that costs a lot more money. Yes. So it would be nice to take the extra assurances, but that's really where you can get beat in horse betting is if you overbox things.
Yeah. So you kind of just go with the 3 you like and that have a chance of going 1, 2, and 3, and you're picking a trifecta and you're not boxing.
Well, you know what you might do is you might spread in that second place. You know, what you might do is say, I think Mandaloun's going to go 1, Midnight Bourbon's going to go 3. I got no clue who's going to go 2. And so I'll put Warrant and Sprawl in 2. You know, that's another way you could do that.
So that's 2 different bets though, or do you have the option? Is there, I mean, you can bet just about anything. Is there a way to bet that?
Yeah. So that
situation? Okay.
The verbiage on that would be, so the horse numbers, just so everybody knows, Mandaloun's coming in the 2 post, Midnight Bourbon's in 3, Sprawl is 4, Warrant is in 6. So you would walk up to the betting window or do it online. You would say 2 with 4, 6 with 5. Every time you say the word with, you're telling the person taking the bet from you that you're moving to the next position from first to second place.
Okay. So you can you do more than 2 on in that particular situation? So obviously the payout's less, but can you do 2 with 4, 6, and 7 with 3?
Absolutely. Costs a little more money, but yes.
Okay. So that's our play here. Should we throw a little money in together on that play?
It's all entertainment. I would encourage you to go out to the fairgrounds with some friends, watch it, have a beer. Maybe you throw down money at the ticket. We got to remember, don't bet more than you can afford to lose, because it's all just entertainment at the end of the day.
But I can afford to lose a little bit. So are you not going to bet with me?
No, I only bet the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont, and the random. Sometimes there's a pick 6 that gets really large. I kind of pick my battles. But I love to follow these horses.
Your credibility just went down immensely. I was so excited about posting this podcast, and then you say you're not even going to fucking bet on it.
Well, it happens. It happens.
All right.
Still passionate about these guys.
Yeah. Well, hey, you were right on the prediction that I don't make the playoffs in fantasy football. So, okay. Mandaloun is our horse to win, but that's not going to pay anything out if you bet that. So we're going Mandaloun, Sprawl, and Midnight Bourbon, or Mandaloun and then Sprawl or Warrant in second with Midnight Bourbon at third. That's our play here.
I think it's a smart play and a fun one to watch. And look, and the other thing though, what's difficult for some new people to horse betting is if it happens to be Mandaloun in 1 and Midnight Bourbon in 2, and so your ticket loses, you need to be okay, because you weren't going to win much money the other way anyway. It's like it defeats the purpose of placing the bet. So
unless you have $1,000 to bet, on those 2 horses going 1, 2, it's not really smart, because the payout is not.
No, exactly. And so that's a mindset horse bettors have to understand is it's fine to lose, because you're not going to be doing anything betting the favorite all day long.
Explain the difference between the Lecomte and the Louisiana Stakes. So those are the 3-year-old and the 4-year-old races that are both happening here at the fairgrounds tomorrow.
Yes, the Louisiana Stakes is for 4 years and older. None of those horses are eligible for the Kentucky Derby anymore. The 3-year-olds who are running in the Lecomte Stakes. The Lecomte is actually a Kentucky Derby prep race. It's for 3-year-olds only. The winner of this race will be awarded 10 points. Second place will get 4, third place will get 2, and fourth place will get 1 point as they try and earn points leading up to the first weekend in May to see which 20 horses are invited to the Kentucky Derby, and it's based on the point accumulation.
Mm-hmm.
And this weekend, the only Kentucky Derby prep race is right down the road at the fairgrounds, the Lecomte Stakes for these 3-year-olds.
Okay, so Lecomte's going to run first?
Actually, they're finishing the day. That's the 14th race. I think it posts at about 6 o'clock in the evening. Post time opens with the first race at noon, and the Lecomte is 14th. The Louisiana Stakes is 13th. So they're both late in the day.
So Louisiana Stakes race 13, Lecomte Stakes race 14. Post time is 6:20 p.m. Central Time for the Lecomte. And so it's good that we started with Louisiana first before we moved to Lecomte. Okay, because your text message to me said otherwise.
Well, we're still deciding what we were going to talk about. That wasn't the order. I hadn't worked all that out.
All right, so for the Lecomte race 14, the final race of the evening, tomorrow, Saturday evening, at the fairgrounds here in New Orleans, with a purse of $200,000. The fourth race for the 2022 Triple Crown kicked off, and I'm sorry. So I don't explain this. I don't understand this line. Explain this to me. The series added a fourth race for the 2022 Triple Crown as the December 26th Gun Runner Stakes kicked off 4 prep races at fairgrounds that award qualifying points for the Kentucky Derbies. Okay, so that means the Lecomte is a new qualifying option for the Derby?
No, the Gun Runner was.
Oh, the Gun Runner was. Got it. Okay. So the Lecomte is and always has been a qualifying race?
Well, when they created this new format a few years back, I believe, now testing my memory, I feel like we've been doing qualifying points for about 7 years now.
Okay.
Prior to qualifying points, it was stake race earnings, and accumulation.
Okay. So as Seth mentioned, the Lecomte awards points on a 10-4-2-1 scale for the top 4 finishers and has been won by a couple of Preakness winners since 2013 in Ward of Will and Oxbow. Lining up for the race is Surfer Dude, 15-1 morning line odds, Unified Report, 15-1, Papa Cap, 8-5, Trafalgar. Did I say that right?
I think it's Trafalgar, but that's fine.
Trafalgar, 5-1. Epicenter, 9-5. Cyberknife, 6-1. Blue Kentucky, 20-1. Call Me Midnight, 20-1. And Presidential, 20-1. Talk to me about this race.
I think it's really Epicenter's race. He's coming up a long way. He looks like a potential real Derby invitational horse. If you were going to play the pick 4, so this would be a situation, and we're not going to really discuss this, but I just want to talk to you and your audience about it. You would try and pick the winner of race 11, 12, 13, and 14.
Okay.
The only way to do that successfully with any real chance of winning is you're going to pick a couple of winners in 3 of the races, but in one of the 4 races, you only pick one winner. It's called singling.
Okay.
And this would be the race. If I was playing the pick 4, I would single in and I would pick Epicenter to be the one race where I was going to pick one horse to try and keep your bet price down rather than putting multiple horses in 4 races. You traditionally will single a race, and Epicenter to me looks that good in this race.
Okay. How long, what would be the winning time if you had to guess, like just to give people an idea of how exciting horse racing is and horse betting is? They say, I think there's a phrase, they say it's the
Fastest 2 minutes in sports is the Kentucky Derby, and that one is a little bit longer than these races are.
Right.
The Lecomte is 1 1/16 mile.
Okay.
The Derby's 1 1/4. So this is going to come in under 2 minutes, but probably a little more than 90 seconds. But it's heart tapping.
That's the so fastest 90 seconds. And in that time, in that time frame for your bets on the Lecomte, that, something crazy could happen. But if you're taking Epicenter, I'm going to take Papacap. What do you know about this horse?
I like him. I want to see more out of him. He finished 4th in the Del Mar. Didn't really like that, but he owns the fastest last race speed figure, and he's going to be out on front with Epicenter. I mean, that's the thing. These are also front runners.
Sure.
Are they going to tire? You hope not. But it's going to be interesting. I think you're going to see these two going neck and neck. And the question is, do they have the stamina to make this distance? Because again, these are young horses that are now for the first time being asked to run more than a mile because they're trying to work their way up to the Derby 1 1/4. So here comes 1 1/16. Can a front runner that goes to the wire do it for the whole race? And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
Okay. What trifectas or exactas would you be looking at out of these 9 horses?
You might box, a trifecta box. Yeah, it's dangerous to box on a trifecta. You just buy so many permutations.
I'll tell you this much: as far as a superfecta goes, my amateur horse racing research suggests 3, 5, 4, 6. So that would be Papacap, Trafalgar. Wait, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, 3, 5, 4, 6. So Papacap at the 3 horse, Epicenter, 5 horse, Trafalgar. Is that correct? How you say it?
Yes.
At the 4 horse, and Cyberknife, 6-1 odds as the 6 horse.
I like your Cyberknife. The only issue with that bet is you've just identified the top 4 odds. So hitting a superfecta is still hard. It'll pay a little bit, but I've won one of those, and you're just like, that was a whole lot of risk and not a lot of reward. I would work, and I do like Cyberknife on the bottom of that ticket, probably in the 3 and 4th spot. Might crank him to the 2nd. You might. I think call me Midnight. I would certainly have him in that 4th spot, maybe even 3rd. Okay. I think he's got enough to possibly just show up and come on out. Surfer Dude, I think, is just outclassed. He's going to try and run on the lead, and I just think he's going to fade and get passed down the stretch. It's Cyberknight and Call Me Midnight that I think are the ones to kind of throw into things to make a ticket spicy.
Okay. What are your other thoughts on just horse racing in general as we prepare for the Kentucky Derby?
I think it's a sport that a lot of America doesn't really follow or know about, and it's really one of the reasons I wanted to get on is kind of make everyone aware. It's fabulous. The thoroughbreds are beautiful. There's so much power in them. It's such an exciting event, and I don't know that you can have a better day than at the track. But you got to go into the mindset. You're not there to win money. Take your family, take your kids, go with a group of friends. You can kill a number of hours just being outside, having great conversations. You got 20 minutes between races, a lot of time to catch up with friends and family. You got young kids, go down to the horses, see them in the paddock, pick which horse you like based on how their hind legs look. Yeah. There's so much to do in a couple of hours, and it's a real great opportunity. My dear friend Joe G just went and took his family. First time they'd done that, and he said it was fabulous. And he's got a high school senior and I believe a sophomore. And it's just a great way to get people together. And in this COVID world and pandemic we're living in, I just think it's something folks can go do and be outside, or at least an outside entertain activity.
Yeah, yeah. So the leading up, with this event, the Lecomte and the Louisiana Stakes, this tomorrow, this weekend, Saturday at the fairgrounds, and then leading up to the Kentucky Derby, Saturday, May 7th. Who would be your pick as of right now to win the Derby? Can you even like say that right now?
I can't. I mean,
Bob
they actually
Baffert horse.
Well, it's funny you say that. He has the favorite right now. His name's Corniche. The only problem is you can't get real odds on him because he's being trained by a suspended trainer. He's not allowed to accumulate points. Even if he runs in a Kentucky Derby prep race, he doesn't get the points. So this is going to be a big issue to watch. Are these owners going to take their horses out of Bob Baffert's trainer, go to a Steve Asmussen, go to anybody else that they want, a Dallas Stewart, whoever, just so they can see themselves into the Derby? Baffert has responded. He just recently filed an injunction trying to have the Kentucky Derby Racing Commission suspension lifted so he doesn't have to watch his horses leave his barn. But right now, the leading horse isn't even eligible to run in the Derby because he's being trained by Bob Baffert.
That's awesome. Now, I do want to mention a gentleman by the name of Bill Babin on my show today. And Bill is someone who has been known throughout New Orleans for decades as a baseball man. He's a local tax attorney, and he's now known as a horseman. Graduate of Jesuit High School, Tulane University, played baseball for both the Blue Jays and the Green Wave. And from all throughout his, coaching baseball career, he's just kind of become a staple of baseball, but now horses, right? So he has won a lot of baseball events coaching, and then he brought his winning way to the horse game, forming an ownership group with 6 longtime friends. Babin and company purchased a horse in 2018, and at the 147th Kentucky Derby, their 3-year-old colt won one of the undercard races. Masquerade, trained by New Orleanian Al Stall Jr., dominated the field in the 5th race, winning by 11 lengths. And I believe they went on to win the Ohio Derby with one of their horses. I got to check on that, and I want to get Bill on the show. But I mean, how cool is that story for those guys to just pull their money together, buy a horse, and the horse goes and wins the damn thing at one of the undercard Derby races?
It's incredible. The only thing bigger is the California Chrome story from 2014. I mean, That's a similar story. And then he went on to win the Derby and the Preakness.
Yeah. So I got to see, is there a way for me to find out if one of Bill's horses is running in this thing? I would assume.
I'd have to probably get some PPs, the past performances. I got a fun little just caveat. My first job as a lawyer was working at Bill Babin's law firm.
That's very cool. And I assume you knew that story, right?
No, I've lost touch with Bill over the years, but I certainly wish him best and happy to hear about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and he spends like 2 weeks at the Derby each year. I mean, he's made it a tradition. So he actually called me up on his way to the Derby this past year, because it always coincides. The drive always coincides with the day my dad passed. So it was pretty cool. He was on the way to the Derby, and he called me to, tell me he was thinking about us. So that was really cool. And he's a great guy, and wish him all the best, obviously, in life, but also as a horse owner, because that's pretty cool. And we're gonna have to find out here if he's got a horse running in one of these 14 races.
Absolutely. That's who your next guest should be. Appreciate you having me, but that's somebody more in the know. That'd be fabulous. I'd listen to that podcast.
Well, he was going to do it, and then he was like, wait, is this going to be on social media? I don't do all that. And so I think he had a little cold feet, but we'll see. I'm sure I'll get him on.
Well, all right, my friend.
All right, brother. Thanks so much for joining us. This is TalkCulotta, where we talk a lot of sports. I'm Jack. He's Seth, and we are signing out.